Hello and welcome to the Tuesday Talk Show with me, your host, Yvonne Gorman from Essential Print Services. The Tuesday Talk Show is powered by my company, so thank you very much, Essential Print Services, for making this happen today. And today we've got a fantastic guest. We have David Bowler from Sibbalds Chartered Accountants. Hello, David.
Hello, Yvonne. How are you?
I'm really well. How are you today?
Good.
Are you used to doing this thing?
I have done quite a few webinars last year, but normally I'm in control, so that's much more comfortable than being on the other side of it. But let's just go for it.
Well, hopefully we'll have a great time, just having a really nice chat. We know each other from a few years ago, but more recently through our peer-to-peer network that we started in January, don't we? So it's great to have you on the show. We've had some familiar faces already on the Tuesday Talk Show. Just reminder to everyone watching this live or on catch up, this is a live broadcast. Anything can happen. Dogs may bark, the dog may ring, but that's absolutely fine. This is what it's all about. This is series 4, episode 5 of the Tuesday Talk Show. We're going to dive straight in. So David, tell the audience watching this live or on catch up who you are and what you do.
Okay, so I'm David Bowler. I'm one of the directors, one of 4 directors at Sibbalds Chartered Accountants. And as the name suggests, we're accountants, but we are a bit more than that. We do specialise really in business advice and helping business owners to work out where they want to get to personally and with the business, and then supporting them to achieve that. So it's a lot of it is advisory based rather than compliance, like doing accounts and stuff. We do those things, and we're doing brilliantly. But that's not what gets us up in the morning and gives us our spark.
And how long's the company been around for?
Well, since 1928.
Wow.
Yeah, I wasn't there at the start, obviously.
I was going to say, looking really well.
Actually keeps you young.
It's all those numbers. So how did you get to where you are today?
Oh gosh, well, do you want the whole backstory? I can. So when I left school, I was like, I didn't know what to do with myself, really, to be honest. I didn't have any idea where I wanted to go. Sort of just dosed around for a bit. And then I went to South East Derbyshire College, as it was, and they set me up on this thing.
That's a blast from the past, gosh.
Yeah, Field Road in Ilkeston it was, I went to.
Yes.
And they set me up on this apprenticeship program. It was called like initial training. So you had 12 weeks. And I was working at an IT company in Codner, and the plan was that I'd do 4 weeks in the accounts department, 4 weeks in the sort of sales, 4 weeks in the technical department, figure out which one I liked, and then hopefully be offered an apprenticeship there. Then about a week after I'd started, I started in the accounts department, somebody left, and so they started giving me all their responsibilities, and I ended up spending the whole 12 weeks there. And then they said, "Oh, just want to, work here in the accounts department." So I thought, well, yeah, let's do it. So I started to study my AAT qualification. I had to do it in the evenings, so I did 2 evenings a week, and I didn't drive at that point, so I had to catch 2 buses to Ilkeston, and then my mum had to come pick me up at about 9:30.
Thanks, Mum.
Yeah, God, yes. I didn't really realise how much of a pain in the bum it must have been for her. She'd been sat there comfy, having a cup of tea, like, oh, I've got to pick David up. So I did that, and then January 2000, the company was struggling a bit anyway. But January 2000, they expected the millennium bug to cause everyone's computers to be knackered, and then they were thinking we'll get loads of orders, it'd be really good. But obviously, that didn't happen. It was all a bit of a false alarm. So I got made redundant and sent my CV out to loads of firms of accountants, and anybody with an accounts department got a job at a firm of accountants in Codner, and then just trained there, moved from there to other firms, and that's it. And then ultimately I was working at a firm in Chesterfield, really enjoying it there, and there's an accountancy website called Accounting Web, and somebody put an advert on there saying we're looking for somebody to buy in as a partner at a firm in Derby, and it was Terry who works here. He used a pseudonym, Graham Terry. His name's Terry Grant, so it didn't take long to figure out who it was. Anyway, I had a couple of meetings with them, and they thought, yeah, you'd be good. So I joined them as a director, 13 years ago on the 1st of August this year, when I was 27. And then about a year and a bit later, I bought half the firm, and the rest, to say, is history.
Gosh, that's really quite young, isn't it, to become the director of an accountancy firm?
Yeah, it was very young, and God, when I look back at how much I thought I knew then, but actually didn't know, it's amazing what you learn over the time. But it's such a different business now. When I joined, there was about 10, 12 people. Now I've got 28.
Wow.
We didn't have much of a brand awareness. People didn't really know. We were very traditional. We've really, really evolved over that time. It's been brilliant. But yeah,
Amazing.
it was a bit
That is
stressful.
amazing. Just a reminder for people watching live or on catch up, please send in your comments and questions. We'd love to give you a shout out live on the show. So the past year, how has it affected your business, David? And what have you learned about yourself?
Oh gosh. Well, from our perspective, business wise, it's actually been okay, because obviously everybody needed support with furlough, making sure they get the right grants and all those sort of things. So we've worked harder than we've ever worked, and really been trying to support our clients as much as we can. So in fact, our turnover was down a little bit last year just because we couldn't physically get all the work out.
Gosh.
But this year it's up by about 8%. So we've been really fortunate in that way. Time will tell how many of our clients will make it through long term, because there's a lot of challenges still ahead for all of us. It's been good. Personally, yeah, got it. It was just the kick up the bum I needed really last year. I was sort of set. I was getting a bit stagnant, I suppose. And then when it all happened, it went into lockdown. I got my mojo back big time. Setting up webinars, looking into what's going off. I was like, yeah, it was good. I've learned that I do need to be around people though. Whilst I enjoyed working from home, I'm a social butterfly. If you can say that, so I like being around people. I like interacting with different people of different ages, and I found that the lockdown hard for that. But I'm just really lucky that I've got my kids at home with me. Partly lucky and partly it was hard work. That otherwise I'd have really struggled, I think.
Yeah. So what sort of things did you change during lockdown, and what's your COVID keeper?
Well, as a business, it was brilliant. It helped us accelerate about 5 years into what we knew we should be doing, but that we were probably reluctant to do or hadn't really prioritised, which is getting people working from home, working quite flexible hours, and using all the technology that's available. That we luckily that we started to set up Microsoft Teams and everything internally in February. And so that was ready to go. So once we started working from home, we could use that to communicate amongst ourselves. So we were looking at that regard. COVID keeper. I definitely think make time for yourself. Don't spend all your time working, because you never know what's going to happen. So have some proper downtime as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm guilty of always looking at my phone, always doing my emails all the time, and I've now made a habit to sort of not check emails over the weekend, not get my laptop out, and I feel so much better on a Monday when I go in. I mean, I'm overwhelmed with emails, so I think it's make time for yourself, and don't work too hard, because life's too short.
Very good advice there. What is the hardest thing, David, about running an accountancy firm?
I think, well, this applies to any business. It's people. That could be your clients, or it could be your team members. It's hard because everybody's different, and you don't just have to manage that and deal with their performance and how they are at work. But people have a lot of challenge, especially in the past year and a bit. People have got all sorts of things going off in their own lives, and making sure that you keep your team happy and then they keep your clients happy. That is a challenge. It's also rewarding when it's working, but the bigger your team grows, the harder it is sometimes to be able to keep on top of it. But we're making good progress with that. But yeah, that's one of the challenges. And
are you in charge of the people then at Sibbalds?
No, sort of. We all dip in and do a bit of everything. I'm quite passionate about people and making sure the team are happy. And I'm the one who used the phrase team. A lot of my co-directors use the word staff, which I absolutely despise. It feels like a bit like a Victorian upstairs, downstairs kind of thing. We live at the top, they live down in the cellar. So I use team when I refer to the people that work at Sibbalds. So I do a lot to help promote and support the team, but when it comes to HR issues, I'll let Harry Vazdev deal with that. more organised than I am in that regard.
Just like I said before, anyone watching this live or on catch up, please send your comments and questions. We would love to hear from you. And I can see some of you are viewing, so come on, let's see who you are. When was the last time, David, you felt like quitting, or you're at the end of your tether, perhaps when you lost your mojo pre-lockdown? How did you deal with it, and how did you get out of that mindset?
Yeah, there's a lot of times when you're in a business that you feel like, not like quitting, but maybe selling up, you know what I mean, and just thinking, right, I'm going to go and get a job as a delivery driver for Sainsbury's or something. And then you realise how much you enjoy the passion you get from what you do.
Yeah.
You have bad days and bad weeks sometimes, but then I'll have a meeting with a client and something great will come from that meeting. Like one of my clients I've been working with, when I first met them, I kept challenging them to look at growing the turnover, and they thought, well, we can't do it, we don't know how to do it. And the turnover has doubled and the profits have tripled in about 5 years. And now they're starting to believe in themselves, and the impact it's having on them, their team, and the quality of life they can build for themselves is amazing. So you have moments like that, and it makes it all worthwhile. But yeah, last year, before the pandemic hit, I was getting a bit fed up, I think, just because we do, don't we? But yeah, now I'm going to go back big time. Too much, I think everybody in the office will tell you. slow down a bit, we can't keep up.
David, we've got a comment coming in from Simon at Jack Photography. I completely agree. Gareth Southgate would call them the England staff. It's team all the way. Definitely it's team all the way. Totally agree with you, Simon, and good to see you this morning on the Tuesday Talk Show. So your experiences of running a business, from when you've worked with other people, David, and also chucking into the experiences of your customers, what's the good stuff about running your own company? Why should people do it?
I suppose you just get to do things your way. It is challenging because there's 4 directors here and we're all slightly different. So not everything goes quite my way, but I try the best. But you get to choose what the vision is, what the values are, choose which customers you work with, choose which team members you work with. And by doing that, you're eliminating a lot of the challenges you have where you work for somebody else. They tell you what you're going to do, who's going to be your client, who's going to be your colleagues. And yeah, it just gives you that freedom to make, carve your own path. So yeah, I just love it. And obviously financially it's more rewarding sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah. But it's just, I don't know, you just feel like you're achieving something. Whereas if we work for somebody else, it's great, it's very comfortable. But you can't it's hard to look back and think, yeah, I've achieved this or this, because it's somebody else who's, who gets the credit for that, don't they?
Yeah, it's when you're working for somebody else, it's harder to say no to something. Whereas if you're running your own company, you can say no to more things, can't you?
Yeah.
What one thing would you change, maybe in your business or within your industry, that you'd like to see, and why?
I think accountants get a really poor perception generally. Everybody thinks we're boring. As you guys will know, I'm definitely not boring. And I think there's sort of 2 types of firm nowadays. There's firms like ours, which are very tech focused. We do a lot of technology, and we try and do everything. Our fees are fixed prices, so we don't bill based on time. So I think those sort of firms, I think, are just going to keep doing what they're doing. But there's a lot of traditional firms out there that are very old-fashioned in terms of how they operate. In terms of they'll invoice you based on the time spent. So if someone's having a really bad week, you'll charge you more than if they're having a good week. So I just think the general perception of accountancy would be nice to change that and help people realise that we're at the forefront of technology and how it's used. Other than IT businesses, I think accountants are probably the most tech focused, because we have to be, with all the software we use. That's it, really, I think. And
would you say that, in your profession, you do have to come across as being extremely trustworthy and professional? Do you think that some accountants can go too far with the fun factor?
What, become too much fun, or
just to the point where you think, oh, actually, could I trust you with my all my business secrets and confidential information?
Yes, yeah, I definitely. It's a fine line between becoming trustworthy and also enjoying working with somebody. I like to think I've got a great relationship with the clients I work with, and over the years I've learned to balance out being a professional with being a bit of a joke.
But it is important to have that relationship with your clients, especially in what you do, isn't it? Having a bit of banter with them is really important. So to break the guard down, because you've got to ask them some really personal stuff like, what's your personal future look like, to make sure it's built into the business plan, don't you?
Yeah. I'm like the clients that we work with, we tend to work with them for many, many, many years. I've got clients that I started working with 13 years ago when I joined Sibbalds. They're still clients now. I've been to their weddings, and so it is important to build a strong relationship, because like you say, everything about them financially, which nobody else knows. None of their other suppliers know what's going off.
Not even some of their spouses would know what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, well, I've seen that before, where Mrs. X doesn't know what Mr. X is earning. So yeah, you just have to develop that relationship over time, understand what they're about, and then communicate with them and interact with them on their level. So I've got some clients who are they're not like traditional, but the sort of conversation we'll have will be different to the conversations I have with some of the other clients I've got, where it's it's very laid back and we can talk very openly. But yeah, I enjoy that side of things.
Good. What would your advice be, David, for someone looking for an accountant? Maybe they're changing accountancy firms. I was speaking to a business owner the other day whose turnover, isn't huge, but she was paying a lot more than what I was for my accountancy fees, yet I turned over a lot more than she did. And the service, when we compared the service levels, she was not getting anywhere near the service levels that I was receiving. So what sort of, and it's different between accountancy firms, I appreciate that, but what sort of things should people be looking out for? Maybe people have come sort of used to the service that they've been receiving from their accountants over the number of years, but then don't realise that they could be achieving a lot more and getting a lot more out of their business and their value. So what people look out for when looking for an accountancy firm?
Firstly, I'd make sure that they are well up to speed with technology, because that's such an important part of how you interact with your accountant and how you run your own business. So you need some cloud accounting software, you need some apps integrated there, because it'll streamline that and give you much more visibility over what's going off. Secondly, I'd make sure that the prices are fixed, and you go through it and you understand what you're getting and what you're paying for it, rather than we'll do all the work and then we'll charge you whatever we want at the end of it. But also make sure that they're spending time getting to understand what your business is doing at the minute, what you want to get out of it. Because if you only pay for somebody to prepare a set of accounts once a year for you, you're gonna it's just a cost. You don't get any value from it, and you'll always be frustrated that you feel like you're paying too much. And 10 years down the line, you may not progress with the business as much as you'd like to, because you're under investing. So, we always say invest heavily in your finance function, because that's the engine room of the business, really. We would say that, obviously.
No, I totally agree. If people want to see their accountant once a year and they're happy with that, that's fine. But it's for those people who maybe have got used to that, who think that's the norm. And there's so much more out there that accountants like yourselves can help you with. So definitely, if you feel that way and you're watching this, have a chat with your accountant, and maybe even have a chat with David and compare. Yay! And compare service levels for sure. We talked about tech. David just touched on that a little bit there. What is essential in your business right now that you're under investing in? What could you be focusing on more that will improve the business even further?
I definitely think, especially over the last 18 months, training for the team on the non-technical things is something that we've got it all sort of earmarked what we're going to do, but it's just finding the time for them to be able to do it. So it's like how to manage people, how to work productively, and all that. So not the accountancy technical stuff that we do, because we make sure everybody does that regularly, because we have to maintain a CPD.
Yeah.
But it's like getting developing the team so they can become better versions of themselves and take some of the responsibility off of us over time. We've not, partly because of the pandemic and partly because we've not prioritised it, we've not invested as much in that area as we should. So that's something we're focusing on later this year when we get the time to do it.
And we make assumptions as business owners that people, our team and colleagues, they want to be better versions of themselves. Maybe they're happy with the way that they are. That's a tricky thing to deal with, isn't it? When you're a business owner, you're wanting to really drive forward, and you've got someone going, actually, I'm happy with the way things are. And you're like, come on this way, come on this way. How would you encourage people to improve themselves and to take investment in their own personal development?
I think it's just giving them the opportunity to do it. Yeah. Saying, look, you're going to get left behind if you're not moving forwards, you're moving backwards, and as they say, and the skills that you had yesterday, won't necessarily be relevant today. So keep on top of it, because it helps you become more efficient in your job. You'll enjoy it more, and you'll be able to pass on that knowledge and skill to the people that you're responsible for, and then they can pass it on. Yeah. And if we all improve ourselves, the business gets better. It's hard because obviously people get to a certain age. If you're 60 odd, the thought of doing a lot of extra training might not be as appealing. But then I say, well, if you want to continue being part of the team, you're going to have to keep developing, because otherwise you won't be as useful to us. So it's just, I don't know, measuring it, making sure you make time for it, providing the support for it, and inspiring them by showing them that you're doing that yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to take the lead, haven't you, in all that? Definitely. There's always a business book on my desk that I'm working through at the moment. Mentioning books, David, are you a bookworm? Do you like having a business book on the go? Which ones have you read recently that you might be able to recommend?
Okay, a really, really good one that I've read is called Shift by, is it Shift or Switch? Shift, I think it's called, by Chip and Dan Heath. It's about change. And it's really, really interesting to see how change can be implemented by people who don't have any obvious power, but they talk about like having a rider and an elephant. The rider's the sort of logical one, the elephant's the emotional one, and you have to be able to direct both of them to impact change. And these examples of how a guy went over to Vietnam and there was a massive problem with malnourishment amongst the children there, and what he noticed was that in one village, they ate, whatever it was they ate, some of the mums there whose children weren't malnourished were chucking the leaves from what they were cooking into the stew.
Yeah.
And by doing that, they got all extra vitamins. And so all he did is he showed other mums how to do that. And then he managed to solve the problem, and 1 million less children were malnourished because the mums showed how they cooked the stuff and put in these leaves that were leftovers and not normally eaten. So
I've not heard of that book. I'll better check that out. And when I find it, I'll pop it in the show notes as well, because that's a really interesting one.
It's really good. I'm passionate about things like change and people. All the ones I've read recently, I've read loads of books, especially last year. I don't always finish them. Sometimes I'm reading the book and I'm like really enjoying it, but then someone will say, have you read this? And I'm like, oh, okay, so I'll go and get that one. But Drive by Daniel Pink is a brilliant book about motivation, and very interestingly, it tells you about bonuses don't work really, so people want to do things for the intrinsic rewards really, and that's how you motivate people. Just saying do this, I'll give you a bonus, when they studied it actually had a counterproductive impact. Like paying a child to do a drawing got a lower quality drawing than just getting them to do it because they enjoyed doing a drawing. So that's great. Atomic Habits, love that book.
Yeah, just finishing that one myself. That is a really good book.
Yeah, I've listened to it several times, so I keep going through it, because if you listen to an audiobook when you're driving, you always miss a bit, don't you?
Yeah.
I don't really follow it as much as I should do, some of the things I've learned from it, but it's been good. Oh God, there's loads.
Oh, it sounds like your bookshelf is packed with
Yeah, it is. Well, Audible now, because I buy all these Audible credits and then I think I've not used them for ages, so I think I've got 3 to use. So any recommendations you've got, throw them my way and I'll go and get it off Audible.
Absolutely, I will do. Devin, straight back into the questions then. What have you become better at saying no to?
Just recently, Aldi special buys and Uber Eats. That's what I've got to say no to, because they pop up on your emails. It's like Aldi special buys are like, and the amount of rubbish I bought last year. Well, not necessarily rubbish, just because you were sat at home and it's just so easy to order stuff. So, saying no to that. I think also doing things that, like doing work where either I don't feel like I've got the right skill set, or the client isn't willing to pay the right fee to get that work done properly. Definitely done more of that, knowing that time's precious and life's too short. Don't do things that you don't know how to do, or you're not comfortable doing, and also don't do things where you're not going to get the proper reward for it.
And doing things you don't like doing. You know, when you get to a point where you're really, really busy, start creating a not to do list, and that forms the role of your next employee. That's always worked really well for me. You know, I enjoy most things about my business, and weirdly, for someone who's not very good at maths, who got a GCSE D in maths at school, I actually love the account side of business. You know, I'm absolutely fascinated with the profit and loss and reading all the figures and what they mean and how they impact the business. So yeah, definitely. Many people watching this, David, would already have a business, but those people want to start a side hustle or take that leap of faith and start their own company. What advice would you give someone starting their own company?
Well, firstly, have a plan. You know, a lot of people go into business, and where they probably fall short of achieving what they could achieve is because they're great at whatever the business does. So they could be a great plumber or a great engineer or whatever, but you need to have a plan as to how you're going to grow the business and where you want to get to. So don't just rush into it. Spend time thinking, where do I want this business to go? How am I going to get my first customers? Things like that. But once you've made your mind up and you're going to do it, just get on with it. Choose the right accountant, because they'll probably be with you for the rest of the life of the business. And one of the things I would definitely do now if I started again is document the systems and processes from the start. Have a clear vision, values and all that, but then document all the systems and processes, so when you start to hire people, you can show them how things are done and it can be consistent, which is another book, by the way. The E-Myth is a great book.
Very good book.
Which really sort of follows how McDonald's use systems to make sure everything's consistent there. So yeah,
and the
systems
organizational chart as well was really good in the E-Myth.
Yeah, really good.
Really
handy.
it's
quite an old book, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really old book, and the Audible seminar of the E-Myth is also very entertaining, where Michael Gerber actually goes through the book himself. He's a very good speaker. You mentioned business plans. I mean, we're not talking about reams and reams of paper, are we? It doesn't have to be War and Peace, does it?
No. I mean, we do something called a one-page plan, which we use for our business. And we use it with some of our clients, and that's all it needs to be. One page setting out where you want to get to. So you highlight your vision, and then you have some key numbers on there, and that's it really. You know, just measure what gets measured gets managed, as they say. So just have a few KPIs on there, set out what your vision is, and then if you want to make it even more detailed, just set out what you need to achieve each quarter to get towards those goals, and that's it. You know, it doesn't need to have to be like 30 pages long, and you know, just keep it simple, and that's all you need really. Even if you Microsoft, you probably need something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned documenting systems. We've got a company handbook which goes through how to create a quote, how to book a job on, how to deliver something, what a box should look like when it goes out to a customer. And that was really good for when something may have happened. You know, if something happens to me, touch wood that it doesn't, someone can just pick up this handbook and pretty much get on with it. And it's also very good if you want to sell a business, isn't it? You package things up like that, and implementing those things that the big boys do, big companies do, into a small business really does reap rewards, doesn't it?
Yeah, but if the business relies on you to be there day in, day out for it to operate, you can't sell it, because you haven't got a business, you've got a job. And you've got the world's worst employer, because it makes you work loads and loads of hours, not enough pay, and all that. So when the business doesn't work without you, somebody else will be buying it. Like, I'm going to pay you for this, but then I've got to work here 7 days a week to make any money. That doesn't sound very attractive.
No.
So it's just about consistency as well. You know, you want everybody to do things consistently to the highest possible standard. And by, like you say, having that like a picture of how things look, I'm pretty sure a lot of people do, business have that. Like, well, Subway have it. I think, don't they? Like, this is what the sandwich should look like, and they all do it the same. McDonald's never looks like the pictures, though. Like this is what Big Mac should look like. You're like, what's happened to this one? Someone sat on it.
David, time has absolutely flown by. I knew it would, and it always does on the Tuesday Talk Show. I can see people have been tuning in live, and we'd love to hear from you all. So please send in your comments and questions. So we're going to skip right down to the bottom of the question list, which is, what's on your bucket list, David?
Well, as you said in the show notes, I am really, really passionate about the environment and animals and wildlife, and trying to do my bit and support people like David Attenborough and Greta Thunberg with what they're doing. So I'd like to at some point go and help out in Africa or somewhere like that where animals need support, but also when I sort of step back from the business, plow all that energy into promoting, recycling and clean energy. I want the world to be a better place for the animals and plants and that. So
that's lovely. That's not an answer we've had so far on the Tuesday Talk Show. So that's a really, really good one to end with. So where can people find you, Dave? If you've got any queries or any comments you'd like to make of what you've said today, where can they find you?
You can go to our website, www.sibbalds.co.uk, where all my contact details are on there. If you look on the team, the photo's a bit out of date, but I want to keep that. Click on there, that'll take you through to my LinkedIn page. I'm on LinkedIn, so just search for David Bowler on there and you'll find me. And then that's it. I don't know if the notes will be, or the details will be within the show notes or anything.
We can pop them in there, no problem at all. It's been absolutely terrific chatting with you today, Dave. It's been really good to have a bit of one-to-one as well, even though it has been live. So we're going to wrap the show up. Then after that, we're going to come back to you for your very final thought. This is Series 4, Episode 5 of the Tuesday Talk Show, the last episode in this series, but we'll be back very soon with more fantastic guests and fantastic shows. If you've enjoyed this episode, there are loads more on the Tuesday Talk Show YouTube channel. Press the subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified every time we go live. So over to you, David Bowler, for your final thought.
Well, it just came to me when I was we were just talking about it. I think in life, you've also, as well as trying to grow a business and do all those things that we all try and do, I think you've got to have a purpose that goes beyond that and try and do something that makes an impression on the world or makes an impression on your community. So let's all try and give a bit back. Whether that be volunteer at a shelter or donate money to charity if you haven't got the time, but don't just do everything for yourself. Try and do something for others, and you'll feel a lot better.
Your purpose. I love that. I absolutely love that. Thank you so much, David. It's been fantastic speaking to you today. Everyone's watching this live on Catch Up. Please send me your comments and questions. Press the like button. Show us some love, and we'll be back very soon with the next series. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks, Yvonne. Bye.